You're listening to the HUD Podcast, the official podcast for the Hudsonian newspaper at Hudson Valley Community College. An HVCC podcast for the students, by the students. Your news now. Get ready to enter the HUD. Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to the HUD, the official podcast for the Hudsonian, the student-run news organization at Hudson Valley Community College. I'm Nolan Cleary. I'm the editor-in-chief for the Hudsonian.
I'm Samantha Simmons, the broadcast editor for the Hudsonian.
And I am Sean Tedeschi, junior broadcasting editor for the Hudsonian.
Joining us today, we have a very special guest. Mike Espy served as a congressman from Mississippi from 1987 to 1993. And was the first African American to represent the state in Congress since Reconstruction. He served under the administration of President Bill Clinton as the United States Secretary of Agriculture from 1993 to 1995, and was the first African American to hold the position. He joins us today to discuss his long, extensive career. Secretary Espy, thank you for joining us today.
Hello, Nolan and Samantha and Sean and all the Hudsonians. Glad that we could make this happen, and I'm delighted to be here with you.
All right, the first question I have for you, at the time you were elected to Congress, you were only 33 years old, and you weren't even old enough to run for president at that time. Was it overwhelming stepping into that position at such a young age?
Well, it was the first office that I had ever run for since student council in my high school days, frankly. I'd never run for any electoral position, and maybe it's a good thing that I didn't know what I didn't know, you know? So I wasn't overcome with awe. I really didn't know what was ahead. Honestly, this was 1986. I was Assistant Attorney General for the state of Mississippi, the first Black in that position as well. And I really knew that at that time, I really didn't think that there were federal policies being enacted that were particularly helpful to the district that I wanted to represent. This district was the poorest area in Mississippi, of the poorest state in the nation. Majority African-American, well, in population, but it wasn't majority in voting age. And so a lot of people thought that an African-American candidate could not win because 2 times prior, the most popular Black politician had tried to win that seat and lost both times. So I looked at his race, decided that strategically there were some things that I could improve upon. I was much, much younger. I was about 31 years old. I had a lot of energy, and I thought that I could put the energy and the strategic differences to effect and then get more white vote than he was able to get. And actually I did. The district was about 51% Black pure population, but when it comes to voting age, and then Black voter registration was about 47%. So because of that reason, it was a majority Black. A lot of people thought at the time that Black candidate could never win, particularly because of what had happened twice before. But you know, I don't believe in conventional thought. You know, I thought that if I put forward the right campaign, I could persuade white voters to come over and vote for me, and that is in fact what happened. I got about 95, 97% of the Black vote and about 12% of the white vote. And I was propelled into that victory. First African-American to ever represent that district since the Reconstruction era after the Civil War. And each time I ran, the next 2 years and the next 2 years, until 1992, I was reelected. Last time I got maybe 30% of the white vote. So it was great. So it wasn't, if I had been a little older, knowing what I didn't know, I may have been overwhelmed, but you know, some bit of naivety, which I will admit to, it didn't prevent me from from running. So I got there and found out how difficult that job was. And I said, okay, but I'm glad I didn't know. So in direct answer to your question, the answer is that I wasn't overawed because I was sort of uninformed, to be honest. And that was a good thing because I wasn't nervous about it, and I wasn't in awe of the difficulty at the time.
My first question is going to be, what led you to pursue a career in politics, especially knowing you might be the first African American to hold the positions you did? Was it like daunting? But what made you want to go after politics?
Well, I wasn't sure about it, to be honest, Samantha. I always wanted to be a lawyer. That was my preferred career, professional path, and I was able to do that. Went from college to law school, passed the bar in Mississippi, and began to practice law. But I started in legal services, which is a poverty law program. And I was the youngest manager of a legal service branch, which was situated in the district that I later represented. And as I began to become more familiar with my clients, more familiar with the endemic poverty in the area, and I began to see, well, maybe my best contribution would be as someone who could change policy to make the district wealthier and improve education and improve the healthcare fortunes of the people here that are represented as their attorney. And so that turned my attention to politics. In 1986, Ronald Reagan was the president, and there were some things that he did that weren't so good for a very poor, largely Black district like the one I wanted to represent. And I just thought I could do better. The district was represented by a very, very conservative white circuit court judge. And I just thought I could do better for the residents, the farmers, and I decided to try for it, and I won.
It's like a nice little full circle, you working for the district.
Yeah. I mean, I was working for the legal service district, which largely encompassed the congressional district that I would later represent. So my clients became my constituents in many ways.
Yeah.
Then I learned about agriculture. I never knew a thing about farming. I never farmed in my life. My father was the agricultural expert. He got a degree from Tuskegee Institute under George Washington Carver back in the 1930s. And he was what they called Negro. He was the first Negro county agent ever in Arkansas. And it's amazing that, his son ended up being Secretary of Agriculture. But I knew nothing about it, didn't want to know anything about it. My career was going to be in law. Then because the district I represent, the economic mode was largely in agriculture, I was assigned to become a member of the agriculture committee. So I became a member of that committee. They put me as on the subcommittees of cotton, rice, and sugar. And then on the subcommittee of departmental oversight. So that committee was the one that would have jurisdiction over the Department of Agriculture. And then I began to learn about the department, the good things and the bad things. And I decided, well, okay, when Bill Clinton became president, I said, well, I know so much about the ins and outs and the protocol and the administration of the Department of Agriculture. I think I'm the one that could run it maybe a little bit better. So it was amazing that there was a program in his honor, and I was in the same organization back then. It was called the Democratic Leadership Council, and we were giving him a celebratory program. And I decided, well, maybe I can ask him to consider me as a cabinet secretary. So don't ever do this. But it was a spur of the moment thing. It really was. I went during that program before he was introduced to make a speech. actually went backstage and I wrote on an envelope, 10 reasons why I should be considered as your Secretary of Agriculture. And these were all things that he had spoken about. And these were all things related to the ills within the department that I knew he wanted to correct. And when he came, I shared a note with him. He put it in his pocket. I thought I would never see it again. But as he began to, he was about to be introduced. In fact, I was introduced to Al Gore, who was the vice president. And as I was beginning to get up to introduce Al Gore, I saw Bill Clinton reading my note. And when he got, I saw his eyes go from the first point to the 10th point. You know, his gaze went down. And then when I saw his gaze go down, he looked up at me, we locked eyes, he gave me a thumbs up. I went, my Lord, I might be the next United States Secretary of Agriculture. I mean, it wasn't that easy. I had to go through the FBI background checks and 4 or 5 interviews and all of that, and in a very clandestine way, go into Little Rock, Arkansas to go through all of that. And that's a story in and of itself. But, you know, I would say, even though it was an impromptu thing, I knew it's what I wanted to be. I knew that those farmers I had represented for 6.5 years, they needed a better advocate at the USDA. I thought there had not been enough focus on Black farmers. Within the panoply of programs, I thought that we could do more to elevate rural development. There were a lot of people not running water. You know, so I just thought I could do better, and I tried for it and I got it. So the thing is, you know, and this syncs up with what you're doing there in the college, community college, you have to get a basis of education. The education makes you more informed. When you're more informed, you have more curiosity. When you have more curiosity, you do everything you can do to satisfy that curiosity, and it just makes you want more. And if you're a confident person, it enables you to believe you can do more. And I thought I could become a congressman. I thought I could become a Secretary of Agriculture, and both those things happened.
Well, I have a question for you, sir. Based on your accomplishments, I mean, you have an outstanding resume, and you've done a lot for the people. It shows the morality of your character.
Thank you.
So when you first were, you know, planning to run for public office, did you ever imagine that you would, you know, get as far as you did and just make all these accomplishments here, just a greater benefit for the American people?
No, I really didn't. I mean, I thought that the crowning achievement would have been the first Black member of Congress. Then I got there and I joined the Democratic Leadership Council, which enabled me to become more interested and informed about world affairs and national affairs. And again, once you know more, your curiosity peaks, and you want to satisfy that curiosity. Once you do, then you know even more. And once you elevate, you decide, well, maybe I'm the one that could do something about this. So that took me into, as I mentioned to Samantha, the orbit of the Department of Agriculture. You know, when I got there, I became the one that the president assigned the duty of going around the world negotiating agricultural trade treaties. I mean, I went to Spain, Morocco, Canada, Egypt, other areas throughout Africa, all over America, negotiating the NAFTA treaty and the GATT treaty. So I just knew more about world affairs. It just expanded my horizons, which is again what led me to run for Senate in Mississippi twice. So, you know, once you know more, you can do more. Once you do more, you want to do more. And that's just what led my trajectory upward.
Wow, that's
don't start out that way saying I want to be president. At least a lot of people do, but I didn't. I was satisfied. I was satisfied actually to be congressman. And had I remained there, I would have been some committee chairman, I'm sure by now. But when you think you can do more, you should go ahead and try for it. If you have a good educational foundation, you have a knowledge of what needs to be done, then you'll search yourself and you'll just try to do it.
I love that input. Such a great response.
Thank you.
I have a question for you. In 1988, you got to speak at the Democratic National Convention and were even introduced by then Speaker of the House, Jim Wright. What was that moment like for you, and what was going on in your head at that time?
It was awesome, awesome. You're standing there in front of a million-person audience throughout the nation, multi-million, and inside the hall there in Atlanta. I mean, I don't know how many thousands were there. They're all shouting and screaming. And you are speaking into a microphone, and they always prepare you to speak as if you were speaking to someone in your living room. So you have to speak at a muted tone, even though they're screaming around you, and it's so loud, and you can't respond to that. You just have to speak in conversational tones. Yeah, I introduced the keynote speaker, then the governor of Texas, Ann Richards, but they gave me a minute to share my own story. Well, let me tell you something I never said before. All right, this is something I never shared on any podcast.
This is exclusive.
It is. Shortly before I went out to speak, I was extremely nervous, and a very excited intern backstage came to me. He said, Congressman Espy, there's an urgent phone call from you from Jackson, Mississippi. And that's where I was living. And I said, what is it? He said, we just got a message backstage that your home is on fire and your children, I had 2 children, they are being burned in your house. Backstage. And I only had about maybe 5 minutes before I had to go out there. And he was saying, who can we get to take your place? Who can, and it just struck me that it was a lie. It just struck me as a dramatic attempt to force me from my moment. Could have been racial oriented, because back in Mississippi, the newspaper said, Congressman Espy is going to be, everyone knew I was going to do it. So some enterprising person found out the number backstage to the Democratic National Convention, called it, got the message sent to me. And so fortunately, I said, well, give me a phone. And I only had about 2 minutes. I called my brother who lived down the street from me. And I called him and he answered the phone, thank God. And I said, his name is Tom. I said, Tom, I just got a message that my house is on fire. He's going, what? I said, I don't think it's true. Can you just go to your front door and look northward and see if you see any smoke? I said, I'll hold on. I only got 30 seconds now. And so he did. He said, heck no. No smoke from the general center of your house. And I said, okay, it's someone trying to break the movement. Someone trying to mess me up. Someone trying to, again, I don't know who did it. I don't know if it was racial or whatever, but whoever did it knew how to spoil the moment. Wow. So, and I didn't refuse to let them spoil it. I said, well, okay, I'm gonna buck up. I'm gonna give even better speech than I had planned to give. And all my nervousness went away. I just got angry. Well, I let my anger magnify into confidence. And I went out and I gave a speech.
Wow.
That's a true story. Absolutely true.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah,
I
thank
really
you.
appreciate that. The more humanizing aspect of these interviews, that's what I strive for with this.
Yep.
To me, it's not just about your accomplishments. It's you as a human being.
Yep. Can you imagine your house is on fire and your 2 children inside are burning? And so they just thought I would, jettison this. And but I just didn't believe it was true. You know, I mean, someone had already defaced my front door, scribbling in the N word in the front door of my house. You know, doing my reelection, prior 1992 reelection. Somebody did that. So I said, okay, you know, here it is again. This is my fourth reelection, and I'm still the African American in Mississippi, even though I'm a congressman.
Right.
Wow.
It's true.
Yeah. Geez, people.
Yep.
That's a lot to take in, you know, right when you're about to have this really big moment.
Mm-hmm. That's what they anticipated, that I would turn away from it and rush, but I just didn't believe it. I mean, you know, I mean, that's not first time for anything like that. But again, you know, when you come home and see the N word scrawled on your front door, and you're in the Congress of the United States, here in Mississippi, that's so I just believe it wasn't true. It was just too coincidental, you know, just too coincidental. I didn't believe it, and in fact was a lie.
Well, thank God.
Thank God.
So since the time that you were congressman, we've seen more diverse political figures in the government, like Barack Obama, Kamala Harris, Stacey Abrams. So what do you make of the diverse changes in our country's politics now?
Well, I mean, I think it's great. I think, you know, diversity improves the nation, improves enlarges the width and breadth of this entire country. You know, and these are people who are, you know, a different gender, you know, race, age, you know, so diverse is good, as long as that person does not necessarily represent only, you know, the group that they're from. So, I mean, Barack Obama represented everyone in America, and Kamala Harris now represents as vice president everyone. She's everyone's vice president. And I was everyone's secretary of agriculture. So, yeah, you know, I mean, the more we have different people from different backgrounds come to the fore, it just makes us wealthier as a nation. So, you know, I'm all for it. Diverse is good for the entire country and good for politics, because you have different points of view. You come from different backgrounds. You know, you're able to enunciate and verbalize your background, and it has an impact on policy. And you're able, when they get in those rooms, and really shut the door. You know, a lot of people don't find out what happens when they shut the door, when you're in the committee rooms and you're dividing up $1 trillion. You've got a little piece that might be a couple of $1 billion that nobody ever thought of put in here, put in there. So, but based on your background and your experiences, you're able to articulate why that's necessary, and then that's what happens.
Wow. So my next question for you, sir, would be what advice would you give to the next generation of, you know, political leaders, or, you know, people running for future office that are planning to do this, you know, that are, let's say they're college students right now, maybe working on their bachelor's or their master's right now, but planning to run for a position because they want to make a positive impact on our country, like I believe a lot of us do?
Prepare yourself early. Always have a plan B. Always have something to fall back on. You know, I mean, if you want to run for Congress, you know, you might lose. So if you lose, you'll have a profession that makes money, that it will enable you to pay your bills, right? So a lot of people always say, if you want to be in politics, you ought to major in political science. And I did major in political science. But I'm gonna give it a different. I mean, political science is a great major, but you can read books and learn about political philosophy, and you can learn about that on your own. To me, if I could do it over, I would do it in another profession. You know, English, or math or something like that, So I just say, prepare yourself, get a good base under you, give yourself options, always determine what is your plan B. If plan A doesn't work, you can easily slide over to plan B. And always give yourself, as I said before, options. You need as many options as you can get. Then if you want to be in politics, find a mentor. Find someone who is already there doing what you aim to do in the future. Become an intern for someone that you admire and respect. If you want to go to Congress, try to work for a member or a senator, Put yourself in the situation to learn, because then you may decide that's not what you want to do. This is maybe not what you want to be. So do that early, and then get someone that took you under their wing to train you, to look out for you, to be your blocker, if you will. And then you're receiving training over the years, and as you get older and more mature, you can make better decisions.
All right, that about wraps up this week's episode. Secretary Espy, thank you again for joining us, and thank you for your long, dedicated political service.
Glad to do it, Nolan. Glad to do it. Thank you so much, guys.
To read more about the following stories, make sure to head over to thehudsonian.org for the latest on-campus news from the Hudsonian, and make sure to listen to new episodes of The HUD every Monday.